Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's BU Professional Development webinar, 3 Ways to Power Up Your Brand with LinkedIn. My name is Jeff Murphy, and I'm an Associate Director in the BU Alumni Relations Office, as well as a proud alumnus of the BU Questrom School of Business. Today's webinar is sponsored by BU Alumni Relations and is offered as part of BU Alumni Career Weeks 2017. BU has dedicated the entire month of March to alumni careers with 31 days of networking events, professional development webinars, and panels, both online and in 14 cities around the world. Whether you're a seasoned professional looking for a change, new to the job market, or just need some advice to apply to your career, there's likely something taking place for you. You can see the schedule of remaining events, and we do have a couple left this month just by going to our website at bu.edu/alumni/careerweeks. It's important that we get your opinion on how we're doing, so we very much look forward to receiving your feedback via a survey that will be emailed to you later today. I know we have alumni joining us from around the world, 13 different countries, places like Bulgaria, Calgary, Nova Scotia, Geneva, Madrid, Mexico City, Saudi Arabia, U.S. cities like Tucson, Pasadena, San Diego, Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Hoboken, Salt Lake City, and as always, dozens of Massachusetts alumni from towns like Beverly, Framingham, Needham, Falmouth, Worcester, and more. For each and every one of you out there, please know that we really do value your opinion on this and every program that we offer. Before I introduce today's speaker, some brief housekeeping notes. As you know by now, this webinar is being hosted on the Adobe Connect online meeting platform. If you experience any trouble with the audio or visual portions of today's presentation, I'll ask that you please contact Adobe Connect directly. If you want to jot down the phone number, Adobe Connect can be reached at 1-800-422-3623. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be made available for on-demand viewing on the Alumni Association website, again found at bu.edu/alumni. Our speaker today is very eager to answer any questions you have, and you're welcome to submit them throughout the presentation using the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen. We hope to get to as many questions as we can during today's webinar. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day. Presenting from Newton, Mass. is two-time Terrier alumna Angela Pitter. Angela is founder and CEO of Livewire Collaborative, a digital marketing consultancy. Their services include online strategy development and implementation for mid-sized business, social media training for corporations or organizations, one-on-one executive coaching, social media analysis, as well as Facebook ads and email marketing. Additionally, Angela has trained several hundred professionals on hot topics, including how-to for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and there's an app for that. Angela has spoken at the Massachusetts Conference for Women and was recently featured on the TV series Our World. Prior to Livewire Collaborative, Angela spent over 20 years in high tech and brings extensive experience leading global teams and products to market. She received both her MS in administration and BS in computer engineering from BU. And Angela also currently serves as a board member of the Newton School Committee. Angela, thanks so much for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and get your slide deck up and running, and then the floor is all yours.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. It was around the world, so I don't know what time zone you're in. I'm really appreciative of being here today. And definitely, put those questions in the question box. I know there's a lot of things happening with LinkedIn that has changed recently. And so I want to hear from you and be able to help you the best I can. So let's get right into the slides. And of course, special thanks to BU and Jeff Murphy for inviting me here today. And if you haven't already, go ahead and join the BU alumni group on LinkedIn. After all, that's an excellent place for us to join and collaborate further after this webinar has been completed. And you've heard a lot about my background. I don't really need to add anything more here, but I think we need to pull up the polls now because I want to hear about you. I want to hear about when did you graduate from BU? What is your profession? What is your industry? So Jeff is going to upload the polls right now. So let's just see who we have on the phone collectively.
And Angela, are you seeing those coming in real time?
Yep,
I know it'll take a couple seconds for our folks to select their answers here. Looks like a pretty good age distribution of our alumni so far from the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. And we're kind of all over the map on functions and industries so far.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, this is a good mix. There's a whole bunch of other. So the other, of course, is, so many industries. So, okay, good. Good, good, good. I see we have like, Jeff said, a really good mix here, good age group, function wise, as well as industry wise. So great, 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 great. Good to see. Variety is a beautiful thing. All right, so let's get right into it. So, why LinkedIn? I want to talk a little about that. Why is it different? It is different, and it's even more different than if you haven't been on LinkedIn in a while. It's changed quite a bit in the last few months. And I'm going to talk to you about how you use LinkedIn to tell your story, because clearly we're talking about what 3 ways can we power up our brand with LinkedIn. And then we're going to talk about how we can use some of the other features within LinkedIn on how you can connect with your colleagues at BU and other universities, as well as reach out to people online, because after all, it is a social site and we need to learn how to start a conversation and be social. And then we'll close with some Q&A and some next steps for everybody. So why LinkedIn? LinkedIn is the largest professional network on the internet with 467 million members in over 200 countries. People are joining at the rate of 2 members per second. It's available in 24 languages. And if you don't know, their mission statement is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And people have been using LinkedIn to research, to connect with people, build more relationships, brand themselves, and of course, cover job opportunities. So there's many, many, many ways that you can use LinkedIn. But it has changed, if you haven't noticed. It's changed quite a bit. And some of the big changes are the look and feel. It is more like the mobile app. If you were familiar with the tagging feature, that is no longer available, at least not in the basic. You have to have a LinkedIn Navigator subscription. Advanced search has changed quite a bit. They actually have pulled out a whole bunch of features. They recently, within the last couple of weeks, have put some of it back. So I'm going to actually talk about that a little bit later. You cannot mine your connections the way you used to be able to do. You can't rearrange your profiles the way you used to do. At the end, I'll talk about some resources that you can use, but I do want to share a quick video with everybody. So if you want to stop sharing, I will just jump over and just share a 1-minute video so you can kind of really focus in on what those differences look like.
Angela, while we're transitioning here, I just wanted to mention to our folks attending today, I know that we had some formatting trouble when uploading your slides to Adobe Connect, so I apologize for any fonts that look in disarray or things that don't quite work as you intended. That's on our end and not yours, so thanks for bearing with us on that.
Okay, here we go. So as I mentioned, search, that's a big area that has changed in the way you access search. You can still filter, but filters will look a little bit differently as well. And you can also save searches, which is one of the things they actually had initially removed. That's now back. Notifications are definitely easier to access with the tab at the top. Yeah, your privacy and settings tab is under your view profile now. And of course, you can edit with the little pencil. Okay. So that is it. A quick overview of what the slides, of what the new interface looks like. So we're going to go back to the slides now. Okay. All right. So what happens when you meet people for the first time, when you're at a networking event? What do they typically do when they get back? You give them their business card, and what do? They typically Google your name. if you're a CEO, they may Google your business as well, but typically the first thing they do is they Google your name. So what you want to happen always is when somebody Googles you, you need to show up. You need to show up in search. And actually, I think that is one of the greatest advantages of having a LinkedIn profile is that it helps you to show up. As you can see here, I Google myself and my LinkedIn profile comes up as the fourth entry. And typically it will be the top 1 to 4, is actually even more likely the top 1 to 3 profiles. But you need to own Google. So when someone searches for you, you see here in this case is 346,000 results. But what really happens is when you hit the second page, which most people never do, you will see more about me. And when you hit the third page of Google, you'll still see even more about me. It's not till you get to the fourth page of this Google search that you start to see some other things. So what you want to do is make sure you are on LinkedIn with a completely filled out profile so that we can rank so that people can find you. So the other thing you also want to do is just notice here, I want to point this out that you can set up Google alerts. So if people are mentioning you online, that you are getting those mentions in your email so you're keeping track of what's happening. So that's just a quick and dirty little tip right at the front here. So let's get right into it. How do you use LinkedIn to tell your story? So it really starts with how you're managing your brand. And there's really 3 key components here. It's your photo, your headline, and your summary. And all of them have, the headline and the summary certainly have keywords that you can use to build up your brand. But also in your profile, you can add your current position, your past positions, your skills and expertise would also relate back to those keywords. There should be some strategic redundancy there. Your education, interests, recommendations are very, very important, and you should have at least 50 connections. And I'm going to come back to the connection because I have a little formula that I think works a little bit better. But that's the minimum. And basically, when you do all of the above, your profile is now 100% complete, and you will see that little star, all-star profile on your LinkedIn. So let's start with how does the photo help you get recognized? So here's some quick stats right off of LinkedIn. 21 times more profile views, 36 times more messages, 9 times more connection requests, right? So that's just by having a photo. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen profiles and connected with people that do not have photos. The photos is where it all happens, people. It is key. But you need to have a professional photo. It is not Facebook. So no photos with your buddy, with your BFF, no photos with the cat, with the dog, no family photos. It is definitely a professional social site. It is only about you and nobody else. You also want to have a close-up photo. So a lot of people do this. They take photos of them inside of front of a building. You do not want that. You really just want a headshot. And my rule is fill the frame with your face. So you really just want the headshot right to the top of the shoulders, and that is all you need. And LinkedIn actually recently introduced, you may not be aware of this, some photo filters. And it's actually only on the LinkedIn app on your phone that you can add these great filters to your photo as well. Hopefully they'll bring that to desktop, but there are some features that you can use. But clearly the tips here, you should take heed. Definitely dress like your next job, I like to say. So if you're looking to be a CEO, if you're at a VP level now, you want to go to CEO, make sure your photo matches where you're headed. So the next part is the headline. And I really want you to think about the headline as more than your title. And if you look at these examples here, these are frankly titles: attorney, assistant professor, executive director, entrepreneur. It doesn't say anything about why me. Headline needs to say some of those keywords, your skills, but more importantly, why me? What's the secret sauce behind you? Think about it as if you're reading a newspaper, and I know a lot of us don't read those anymore. We read a lot of, but even reading an article online, how do you, when you go to a CNN website, how do you pick out the article that you're going to read? It's all about the headline. If the headline if it doesn't resonate, you just move on to the next one. So your headline has to be um, attractive. So, like this guy here, Barry, he's a consultant, a cloud accountant enthusiast, a speaker, technologist, CPA. You can see it's a string of keywords that he associates with his brand. If you look up his profile a lot closer, Barry is indeed a CPA. But what he's trying to do here is build a picture, a vision. If you come into his office, he's a cloud accounting enthusiast. So when I walk into his office, I'm not going to expect to see, like my desk looks like right now, full of paper. I'm going to expect to see a nice clean desk because I can send him all my receipts and invoice online because everything is in the cloud. So he's building that picture with you with these keywords. You could also be this one, she's in marketing and advertising, she likes to blow shit up. The Michael Bay of business, right? So if you don't know who Michael Bay is, he's one of the top executive producers in Hollywood. And so this is an interesting headline because first, it's a little bit out there. A lot of people wouldn't put, I like to blow shit up in their headline. But Cindy does, and it's always been there. Every time I do this, do a LinkedIn workshop, I always go back and double check, and it hasn't changed not one bit. But she's also identifying her audience with her headline, right? By saying I'm the Michael Bay of business, she's saying that I'm top in my field, so I'm only working with people who are top in my field. I'm clearly the one that's trying to blow people up, right? So if you're looking to, to be, for example, the next Kanye West or the next president of the United States, if you're looking to blow up in some kind of way in your field or industry, that's your gal, right? She's the person who's going to be on the bleeding edge, not the leading edge. So if you're ready to take that leap of faith, that's your gal. This guy, I've helped 8 companies reach $1 billion, right? Who wants to be next? I do, right? So he's going out there and working with executive teams on their revenue hurdles or whatever their hurdles are that they need to get through. And that's what he does. So these are examples of headlines. A little bit out there. It's going to be a lot more easier for you, actually. So this is an example. Ruth Ann Fuller, she were both residents of the city of Newton. She's a city councilor currently, but she's also running for mayor. So her headline could be city councilor, candidate for mayor. And what's cut off here is also fiscal leader, because that's, she's running on fiscal responsibility. So those are the kind of things that you want to include in your headlines. What are those keywords that you want to be recognized for, right? So the next part of your LinkedIn profile is your summary. But sometimes people have a hard time with this particular area. A lot of times, frankly, people just don't do it. They just totally avoid it. And other times is a cut and paste of the resume. This is not a cut and paste in your resume. This is where you can actually tell your story. In particular, some of the folks on the phone have been in the industry for 20, 30 plus years. So you do not also want to seem dated, right? So on your LinkedIn profile, when you list your previous experience, you don't need to go back more than 15 years. However, say 15, 20 years ago, you were the award-winning whatever, right? You at a particular company, you don't need to list that job, but in your summary, you can talk about being an award-winning leader, whatever. So think about these 6 areas that you want to include in your summary. So your victories is about your significant accomplishments. Your value VPs is values and passions. That's your operating principles. Like I like to build win-win relationships. I'm collaborative. I believe in diversity. The valiant superpowers, those are the things that you do better than everyone else. Like you are the hero, the reason why everybody walks in your office, knocks on your door. The valiant superpowers. The vital statistics is about quantifiable facts, right? I saved the company $3 million. I increased the revenue $3 million. Those are the kind of vital statistics. Anything you can put a number around, you want to include. The verb is just like the quirky thing around about you that's different from everybody else. And the validation, this is really what's the last, the clincher. This is that third party validations where your clients, your colleagues, your customers, they say what you do different and better than everybody else. It's those awards, the accolades. That's that third party validation. It's the things that people say about you. Because your brand, frankly, is what people say about you, not what you say about yourself. So I can say, yes, I'm a LinkedIn expert, I'm a LinkedIn girl, blah, 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 blah. It's not believable until somebody else says that about me. Okay, so I hope that's a little clear. So we're going to have an example here. So I do want to point out, though, the new LinkedIn profile now, you only see the first two lines of your summary, and then you get these little dot, 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 dot that you have to then click to read the rest of the summary. So it's very important now with the new LinkedIn UI that you make sure that first sentence, and again, think about the newspaper when you're reading an article online, even if the headline is good, if that first sentence is not good, again, you're going to skip it and go on to the next one. So you got to make sure those first two sentences. So if you don't really want to write the full blown story and you just want to write the short paragraph, you just got to make sure that the first two sentences of that paragraph really hit your brand dead on, right? So Barry's case, he's an experienced accountant professional providing consulting services to small business owners and accounting firms, right? And his areas of expertise include blah, blah, blah. On Cindy, she's founder and CEO, ran the world critically, a radically simple web meets world platform designed to turn human and corporate good intentions into action. Okay. And then if you look at Brian, he's talking about, again, he just published a book. So that's that's what he's trying to put forward, and a little bit about the book. Okay. So this goes back to the slides are not building well. But if this box didn't come up that way, and I have to go back and look at my slide. um, you know, her headline is affordable housing, commercial development site planner, and landscape architect, right? And what you can't see here really well is the background, but she starts with a question, which is actually an interesting way to start out your summary. Is because when you ask a question, that pulls people in. So what does a 1971 Volkswagen Beetle have to do with assisted living? And so you ask yourself, well, what does it have to be with? And then, of course, she answers the question. So when I totaled mine in 1995, my hospital rehabilitation stays changed my perspective on design, right? And then she goes on to talk about, what her what are the things that she does for her business, what areas she focuses on, like multifamily, the techniques, her specialty, the secret sauce, right? And then finally, moves on to some of the awards that she's won. And then finally, you always got to close with a call to action. So after they read these things, great, wonderful things about you, what do you need them to do, right? So in her case, in need of a registered landscape architect who can talk faster than the Gilmore Girls, reach out, right? And I have a broad design background and experience, blah, blah, blah. She's also a member of an organization, Crew Boston, and hope to see you there. So this is, the idea of telling your story is not necessarily all about your work either. It's also about all of those other things that are important to you. So if you're a member of a board, you want to include that. If you're, volunteer and, there's a organization near and dear to your heart, you want to include all those things because frankly, you don't know why they're reading your profile. And it could be for the business. It could be that you're a member of this organization. People connect on different levels. They could see that you're a dad that, is, coach for the soccer team. And maybe you're a dad that's a coach for the soccer team. So you don't know what it is in your summary that's going to resonate with the reader. So this is the other reason why you want to really include a more holistic picture of you. And again, that's forward thinking. So even if you're in a current role and you're thinking of change your role, think about what that new role should look like so that it's more forward thinking. The other things you could do on your LinkedIn profile is also add some media. And it could be videos. If you're in tech space, you might have white papers, whatever that media is, it's literally a URL that could link to anything on the web. If you were previously on a panel, a speaker, and the video is there, you can link to that. So it's a URL or an upload. So you could upload a attachment. Like I said, you could upload a white paper, ebook, anything like that. Again, you want to be, multidimensional. So it's not all text. You want to actually display some of your work. So a lot of times you'll see a LinkedIn display it, don't say it. The other piece of the profile that's also often overlooked are these pieces. Is your contact. After they read it, they want to reach out. They want to find you. And a lot of times people don't have all their contact information on their profile. One of the things, if you look at your LinkedIn URL, if behind your first name, last name, you see some random numbers and digits, you could actually customize your URL so it becomes your first name, last name. If your first name, last name is already taken, you could always do your first name, middle initial, last name. Sometimes people actually totally change the URL and make it, for example, match their business name. So like my business URL for my company is, WW Livewire Collaborative. I could actually change my LinkedIn URL to be the same so that all my URLs for all my social sites are consistent. And again, if you have multiple sites, in case here she has Pinterest, she has a business page on Facebook, you could add all of that. The phone number, sometimes people aren't comfortable putting their cell phone number, or they may put their work number. Sometimes it's, it's one and the same. But what you could always do is get a Google Voice number, which is free. So if you just Google Voice, you can get a phone number, and then you can set it up to redirect to your cell. So they're calling another number, but then the call actually comes in on your cell phone. That way you can keep your cell number private. Your email, and if you have Twitter, you definitely do absolutely connect your Twitter account to your LinkedIn profile. So if you sort of looking the checklist, do I have a great photo? Do I have attractive headline, social sites, URL, summary? It's all there, and that's what you want. Okay. All right, this is where the slide is kind of like, okay. The other thing, don't forget, is you can create a background, and depending on whether you're your own entrepreneur or you're a business, work for corporate, it could be different. So in this case, as an entrepreneur, remember, think about it as your billboard. So what does she have? Her tagline, the phone number, the website is great. Just keep in mind that, even though the background, your name and your headline are on top of it, covers overlays on top of the background. So keep everything, if you do put any additional text, keep it at the very top. Or you could just do a scenic background like Rebecca has here. It's just great. It helps make your profile pop out. Okay, so I'm going to change gears a little bit here and talk about some of the networking strategies, and in particular with university pages. So I have a quick poll here set up. So let's just generate that. A couple of things. All right. So let's see how many connections you have. Are you on LinkedIn doing status updates? Have you ever used LinkedIn Publisher? Okay. So we got a very low percentage on connections over 500. And I tell you folks, you got to get that number up. How often do you update your status? No. Got to get that up. I mean, so for LinkedIn as a platform to work for you, you have to use it. That's really we got to keep in mind. And if you are blogging, not everybody blogs, but if you are blogging, you should definitely use Publisher. So, all right, we're good with the poll. Let's go on. Okay. So how do people find you? You know, so LinkedIn, your first level connections are your first degree connections. And then their connections are your second degree connections. And when you see a three next to somebody's name, that's in your connections, right? So typically you're working with your first degree connections. Those are people that are directly connected to you and their connections. And the reason why you want to have more than 500 connections is because at the end of the day, it's the old adage is not what you know, it is all about who you know. And one of the great tools for that is going to be, I can get the university pages. So that has also changed a little bit recently. And so, you know what, Jeff, I want to actually go to my stop share and I'm going to switch over to my screen. All right. So what you do is I'm on my home page here. I'm just going to click into the search bar, right? And it gives you all these options. So this is what it looks like now today, which is different than the way it used to work. Right? So I'm just going to type here that I'm searching for Boston University. Whoops, it was already there because I searched for it recently. Okay. Then you go to see alumni. And it literally shows me where 216,000 BU alumni are. And then you could sort this. So this is actually, I prefer to use this if I'm looking for a particular person at a particular company with a specific skill set. This is actually a better starting point than going into the search and just doing a people search. And I'll show you why. I live in Boston. So if I'm trying to find somebody who's in the Boston area, who works at Fidelity. So you see the search is coming up, Fidelity Greater Boston, who's in IT, right? So right now it's telling me there's 79 alumni who live in the Boston area, working at Fidelity currently, and they have a title IT. I scroll all the way down and it shows me who those people are. Previously, it used to also show you with these boxes, whether they're your first connection, your second connection, your third connection. It does not give you that information anymore. The way you have to get to that is you have to hit the next over here, and it'll show you right now. So it says now 62 are in my third level and 5 are in my second level. So those 5, if I click here, that's how I can now sort out and go back and see who those 5 people are in my second level. So if I want to reach out to somebody, I would find those people in my first level who are connected to these people because this is second level connections. So I'm going to actually clear. Oops, I messed this up. Let me put Fidelity back. Here's the other thing you're going to look at. It shows you what they studied at BU, and it shows you what they're skilled at. So if I'm trying to actually I'm entertaining an opportunity at Fidelity in the IT department, I better have some of these skills on my LinkedIn profile because it is showing me right now that 79 of those people that are BU alumni that are at Fidelity has these skills: business analysis, software development, manager, right? So you want to see if you're a fit for the company right away, you could do a skill match right here. So this is why I really like using university pages because there's a lot of detail that you get that you don't get easily using the advanced search. Okay, so we're going to go back to the slides. I'm going to stop share. And then I could quickly fast forward these. And what I also show in the example here on the slides is that you could also, in the search bar, add titles. So if you want to specifically reach out to people as specific titles, you can add director, the search modifiers or, and by the way, on LinkedIn, anytime you use or and not, they need to be capitalized or they don't work, right? All right. So LinkedIn has recently, literally within the last 3 weeks, also added additional search operators. So you can search by first name, last name, title, company, school, which you could have done before, but it's a little bit different. And let me show you the example what that looks like here, right? So if you're searching for software engineers that are not named Doe who have attended Harvard or Stanford, so then what you're going to do is put the title modifier in software engineer, not put the last name and school modify Harvard or Stanford, right? So you're indicating right away, I'm looking for a school, I'm looking for a specific title. I mean, typically, if you just put without those modifiers the old way, it's just going to look for software engineer anywhere in your profile. So it could be in their title, it could end up in their summary. And that's actually one of the reasons why you still want to do sort of what I call strategic repetition. You want to make sure that you have these keywords repeated throughout your profile. So no matter how they're searching, they will find you on LinkedIn. Okay. The other thing you need to do is make sure now your profile is good to go. So there's two parts of LinkedIn, right? You want people to find you, and which is why you have a nice branded profile. And the other part is your prospecting. You're trying to reach out to people and stay top of mind. You're trying to build thought leadership. The easiest way to build thought leadership is actually, that's why I asked you, how many times are you updating on LinkedIn? This is the easiest way to build thought leadership is share an article, share some type of update. So for example, I shared that I'm going to be in the webinar today. The @ sign works exactly like the @ sign on Facebook or if you're using Twitter. And so by putting the @ in front of Boston University and the front of Jeff Murphy is actually a live link. And they actually, so the BU page will get a notification and Jeff Murphy gets a notification that I mentioned them, right? So what happens when you get a notification that somebody mentioned you, what do? You go actually and look back at the update. So the more you mention people and mention companies or mention other thought leaders that you're trying to get on their radar, is easier for you to sort of make that connection and then have that conversation. And the other nice thing here is you could also post the same time on Twitter, which is why I wanted you to connect your Twitter accounts if you're using that platform. So you can literally kill two birds with one stone. Right. The other thing that they recently added is this conversation starter, because a lot of times you're thinking like, okay, now what am I going to say? You're at a total loss for words. So LinkedIn, and again, this is one of those phone features. It's not on the desktop, your laptop version. So what it looks like is this. So like if I want to type Jeff a message, right? You see that little bulb. When I put his name in the message box, it's like neat ideas. If you type that light bulb, so what it gave me is these two options, right? Hey, Jeff, I noticed you're also with the BU alumni, and it'll literally put those words into the message box and then you can add to it, right? Same thing here. It gives you other options. Hey, I noticed that you're connected to Bob, blah, 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 and you can add to it. And same thing, like if he say Jeff posted an article or liked the article or commented on it, it'll also show me that. It'll show me the activity. And I can say, hey, I like that article you recently shared. So it gives you those little tips on how to reach out and connect with people because it is, again, a social platform. And you want to make sure that you're having two-way conversations all the time. You don't just put your profile up and then walk away. And it's like, oh, LinkedIn doesn't work for me. It doesn't work if you're not going to use it. If you use it, it will work. And how do you know it's working? So LinkedIn has this URL here. You could all type in on your own profile. On your own laptop, www.linkedin.com/sales/SSI. And it has what they call this selling index. Now, what it gives you is 4 areas, and it rates you an overall scale of 0 to 100. So is your brand, your professional brand? So is your profile complete, right? Is it high quality? Is it insightful? Are you finding the right people? right? So cold calls, nobody does that anymore. You can create warm conversations now through LinkedIn. And are you engaging to insight with insight? That goes back to what I'm like sharing an update. That's engaging with insight, becoming a thought leader for your community, and then building strong relationships. So it'll rank you on these four areas. And here's an example of what how I look, right? And it gives me a total score of 78 out of 100. It says I rank 1% in my industry, and that's the industry that you define when you set up your LinkedIn profile. And in my overall network, top 2%, right? So if you want to know if you're moving the needle on any of this, just on every couple of weeks, and actually it doesn't take much to move the needle. Anytime I kind of fall back and I'm not posting as much as usual, the number of example engaging with insights that will go down. And when I'm posting consistently, that number will go up. So it doesn't take a lot of work to move the needle. But if you want to know for sure that you're moving the needle, this is your data point here. Go look at your social selling index. Okay. So there's a lot of choices here in terms of apps for LinkedIn. I would say for sure download the basic LinkedIn mobile app if you haven't already. There's all these other options. You don't necessarily really need the Pulse app is the LinkedIn news site, the publisher. There's plenty other resources. LinkedIn does have online videos. The one thing with these two videos is a part one and a part two is that they were recorded before LinkedIn changed your interface, but they're still effective. So I would still encourage you to take a look at them if you need a little bit more. So we're out now for questions. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela. We do have a couple questions already from the audience, and
Mm.
I want to remind folks to go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity. Angela is by far the deepest diver I've seen of LinkedIn since they've made their recent changes, and so definitely take this chance to ask her a question. Angela, Chris has asked a question that you actually predicted that we would get about LinkedIn Pro. He's wondering what we can and can't, what you covered today, if you can do everything that with on LinkedIn without having LinkedIn Pro. But do you want to put up this last poll
Yeah,
question
go
here
ahead.
briefly
Pull up
just
the
to
last
see?
poll question. Let's see if anybody's on LinkedIn Pro. So when LinkedIn initially changed the interface, they stripped out a lot. And in particular, they stripped out like almost all of the advanced search features, right? So what they actually want you to do is not even so much LinkedIn Premium. They actually want you to go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator because all those additional filters and the tagging, which was actually a free option before, is part of Sales Navigator. But they still do have LinkedIn Premium, which I think runs at $55 a month. But Sales Navigator is now almost $79.99, called $80 a month. So what you still do get with premium is with the baseline premium is a deeper search. So if you're in sales and business development, you definitely want that bigger, larger search. So if you do use search, you'll still get a longer search. Also, who's viewed your profile, which is really key. Actually, you know what? If you stop sharing, let me just show you that really quick. Stop the slides. All right, so if I go back home here, right, so who's viewed your profile? When you have premium, you have a longer look back. So I think it's a 90-day look back. Um, and you get a lot more details here as a premium user. So I am a premium user, but I'm on the premium platform that they no longer offer. So my premium rate is only $10 a month. And the only reason I keep it is for this reason right here is so I can kind of get that 90-day look back here. So it does break it out a lot more than if you have basic versus premium. But the premium to get this is the price point is like I said is I think it's $54.99 a month for the base premium. Okay. I'm gonna stay here just in case I need to go back. So what's the other questions?
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna just, if you don't mind, I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller so I can read these questions better. My eyes are getting less effective with age. Sam has asked, for second and third connections, do you recommend asking your first connection, your mutual connection, for an introduction, or is it more effective to just reach out directly, mentioning that you are connected to somebody that knows them?
You could do it either way. I tend to like to ask people because by asking people, you also get a little bit of background. So they may say, "Yeah, you can reach out to them, but and then they can help better direct you." So if you say you're reaching out for, for reason A, and they're like, "Well, you know what, that's really not a good choice. This actually is a better person for you to reach out." So I think it's always a good idea to talk to people first when you want to reach out to someone in their network. Third connections
That makes
is a
sense.
little bit more tricky because it's like the first of the second of the third. So third connections actually sometimes may be easier to reach out. For example, reach out directly if you find there's a common point. So if you're in the same group with them, so anybody who's in a group with you, you can message directly, no matter whether you're connected them or not. And like for example, you might see they're a BU alumni. So if that's the case, I'll reach out to somebody in my third degree directly because sometimes it's just, it's easier to cut to the chase. And then there's all these other tools. I don't know if you can see my desktop up here. This 360 social sometimes will give you, it's a free tool. And there's also contact out, and there's all these other tools that will give you email addresses when you can't find the information for those people in that third row.
Interesting question from Andrea. When you're looking at other people's profiles, do you suggest that you look at them anonymously, or is it better to actually show that you were researching and looking at somebody's profile?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. So for me, because as a business owner, I'm pretty much prospecting, so I want them to know I'm looking at them. Because typically, if somebody's viewing you, then they may say, "Oh, I see you were looking at my profile. Is there something interesting?" At least that's what I do. So if somebody's viewing my profile that I don't know, I may reach out to them if they seem interesting and say, "Oh, I noticed you were viewing my program. How is there something I can help you with?"
Chris has asked a great question. Maybe there isn't a right or wrong answer to this, Angela, but how would you recommend somebody build their build their network to over 500 connections?
So one of the things you can do, which is not easy to demonstrate right now, is you want to upload your let me see. Let me see if it happens here, if I can get to it quickly. No. So they always give you this people you may know. So that's one thing. But what you really want to do is upload your contacts. So you could upload them. You can sync up your contacts on your phone, and you could also sync up your contacts from your email. And it'll give you the option, Outlook, Gmail, whatever your network is. I mean, basically, what you're really doing in any case is exporting out your contacts into a CSV file and then uploading those folks. And then you can connect with the folks that are already in your network that's on LinkedIn. And it's an email match. So if the email on your contact list is not the email they're actually using on LinkedIn, then there won't be a match. But what LinkedIn will do is send them an email that you want to connect. So yeah, that's the fastest way to sort of build up your network. Is definitely riffle through everybody you know. If you have a scanner system for all those business cards you get for the many network events you may be attended, scan all those in. I like to use, I actually use Evernote that has a scanner with it, and it actually has a LinkedIn connection built in. So I can scan in and connect at the same time. So the tools help as well.
Great question from Anita. How important is it for your resume to match your LinkedIn profile or vice versa, especially if you have more than 20 years experience?
So again, if you have more than 20 years experience, you have to figure out a way to sort of bring that messaging into your summary. You don't want to have more than 15 years of experience on your LinkedIn profile. So what you would do is that, I mean, sometimes people also, because you know how you can add media to your profile, sometimes people do attach their resume. I really wouldn't suggest that. I would prefer that you sort of per, um, display your work in a different manner. So ebooks or what exactly white papers, however, depending on your industry. But basically, you kind of want to just capture those things, those key accomplishments that happened in the past as part of your summary.
Again, I just want to remind folks, if you have a question, please use the Q&A chat box at the bottom of the screen. The raise your hand function here doesn't actually do anything for us. Abby's got a great question. How proactive do you recommend that people be with the featured skills and endorsements features of LinkedIn?
So it's social proof, right? So if I go like to mine here, it's all about social proof. So what happens often is that people endorse you for things that, that really aren't your skills. So when that happens, it's just don't add them to your profile. But really what you want to happen here is now with the new UI, you only see 3. Before you used to see 10. So you can say, okay, here's my top 10 skills and feature that. Because again, think about strategic repetition. So what are those skills you want to be known for? So I have social media, public speaking, training. Now, if there's a skill that's down at the bottom, you can reorder these. So I can slide these up and down. And, if I want to, I want to be more prominent for Twitter. So you want to put the more prominent skills at the top. That's basically the message, right? So that you'll have people endorsing those skills that you really want to be recognized for. It's just social proof because we all know people endorse people for skills that they haven't even worked with them, and so they really don't have any idea. But a lot of people just click those doors. What's really the proof, though, is people will look at the recommendations. And that's why it's important to have recommendations and current recommendations. And I can't tell you how many times I've looked at profiles where there'll be 10, 20 recommendations, but they'll be from 10 years ago. So you always, every year, want to look for current recommendations, have 2 to 3 current recommendations.
Another great question that I think is very subjective, and I assume, Angela, you're going to say that it depends, but when people connect with you on LinkedIn that you don't actually know, you've never met,
Mm-hmm.
do you recommend that people accept those connection requests?
Well, so here's the thing. Your mileage will vary. And so I would say if you don't accept requests, here's the numbers thing. It's all a numbers game. And I meant to go back. So in terms of the number of connections, take your age and multiply that by 20. And that's sort of like the minimum number of connections you should have. That's my rule of thumb. So one way to get there, I already talked about the uploading the contacts. The other way is people are going to reach out to you that you don't know. And yes, you may want to connect with people that you don't know. So I always tell people, let me see here real quick if I have any connections I haven't accepted. Of course I'll do it, right? So here's a person, right? So here's the one thing I look at right away. I have 28 connections in common with him. I look and see who those people are, right? Because, when you start having over 500 connections, you are connected with people that you don't know that well, right? And so you just kind of want to make sure that, I always say birds of a feather flock together. So if they're with a good list of people, when I look and these are all pretty good people, by that virtue, I can say, okay, it's probably a good person. The other thing I do is I look at their profile. I kind of see if there's any, sort of alignment here with what I'm trying to do, with what they're trying to do. And the other thing you can do, which I always tell people, at the end of the day, we really want to be sure is, how do I get back to it? Nope. See, this new UI. Okay. Oh, there we go. You can message them. So you have to see I had to go back to manage all. I forget how to do this all the time. And then you can message them. So I can message Fernando and say, hey, thank you for reaching out. I see we have some people in common. So, what's your interest in connecting? And I've done that more than once, and if they respond, I'm interested because of X, Y, Z. And if it makes sense to you, then you can go back and accept. So you could always message someone that reaches out to you that you don't know to figure out why they are trying to connect with you. Right? And hopefully they send you a message like here, they sent me a personal message about why they want to connect. But a lot of times people don't. And that's actually, I would just say for you, if you are reaching out to somebody in that third row, make sure you're telling them why you want to connect with them.
Great question from Beth. If you're trying to switch careers, how would you recommend communicating that in your headline and or summary?
So again, it's forward thinking. So if you're in one industry, there's always transferable skills. So what you should be thinking about is what are those skills that you have in the current industry that you're going to walk into this new industry with that they're still going to be usable. And then focus on the skill set more than the industry. But one of the tricks is what I would also do though is on LinkedIn where you identify your associated industry, I would identify the new industry. So people who are searching specifically by industry will still find you.
Donna's asked a question about groups. Do you know if LinkedIn limits the number of groups you're allowed to join?
They do, but the number has increased. So I think the maximum maybe 100 groups, which is way more than anybody will ever work in. But yeah.
Right. Question from Shamir. Do you recommend listing all of the details for your work experience, or is the branded summary really more important?
You need both. So you definitely have the branded summary, but if people are really interested, they'll then start scrolling down your profile. So the idea is to get them to scroll down. So the headline is good. Yep. The summary is good. Yep. That person looks good. Let me keep looking at them. And so you can now use that experience session to really have those additional detailed pieces that you don't have space for in the summary. Because the summary, you only have 2,000 characters, including spaces. And you'll be surprised how quickly that will go, especially if you've been, in an industry for a while.
But so I've seen, folks who've had incredibly over detailed individual position descriptions. How many lines of experience detail would you recommend putting in for each job?
Um, I don't know. I never thought about it that way in terms of lines. Can you have too much detail? I suppose you could. I think once you get down to the point of experience, the whole idea of filling out that part of the profile is to include some detail. Can it be too long? I suppose so. I mean, I think definitely I would say a paragraph, 4 to 5 lines, and some bullets. And that's actually the other point I should bring back on the summary is to not have paragraph after paragraph. It is better to mix it up and have paragraph and some bullets and maybe another paragraph. And you could do the same thing with your experience, is to have a paragraph with some bullets as well.
Angela, we're running right up against the hour, and we do have some questions, some of which veer off into territory like Google search results and some other things. I know that you had listed in your slide deck some contact information and ways that people could follow up with you. Would you mind if we just go back to that
Let's
so we
go
can
back
sort
to
of wrap
that.
things
Yep.
up? I know we probably have people who are interested in maybe even getting a copy of your slides here. Obviously, we're recording this presentation and it'll be on our website in a couple weeks. It takes us to process the video and get it up. But what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? I know you've listed a bunch of things
So
here.
the best way to get, so first, I definitely just want to make a note here. Do add your LinkedIn URL, and if you have Twitter, to your email signature so people can reach out and connect with you. That's the other way to build your network is, you're always emailing. Everybody emails every single day. Have your email, your LinkedIn URL right under your name on your email signature. To reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's number one. You can tweet me as well. My email's here, Angela@livewirecollaborative.com. You could also call me. You could go to my website, www.livewire.com. And for everybody who's here today, if there are any of my services that you definitely want to explore further, I'm offering a 10% discount on all my services with the code BU Alumni.
Angela, thank you so much. I mentioned this, but you've done an incredible job of doing this deep, important dive on the new LinkedIn after all their recent changes. LinkedIn is so important for everybody's career. I know this, obviously, trying to make sure that alumni have good support from Boston University as they advance their career. So just on behalf of the entire BU community, I want to thank you so much for doing this presentation today.
You're welcome, and thank you again for having me. And I hope the audience got a few tips and takeaways. And again, if there's any confusion, definitely reach out to me if you want the slides. I'll be happy to share them. You can email me if you like a copy of the slides, because the slides do have, wherever you see this yellow highlight like here is a live link to more resources that you can that you can take a look at it and deep dive on as well.
We got a bunch of people chatting in here just to say thank you and great presentation. So thanks again, Angela. I also want to thank all of our guests for participating today. I specifically want to thank those of you who've donated to BU in the past. We really appreciate your support. And as always, if you or any BU alum you know would be interested in presenting a professional development webinar like this, if you have a topic you'd like to showcase for the Alumni Association, I'll ask that you please contact me directly at the Alumni Relations Office or by email at jtmurphy@bu.edu. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Have a great day or a great evening wherever you might be.
Thank you. Great.